in Kampala, Uganda.
We can talk about Deadwood later.
And we can continue this conversation.
Yes, I will ask about the
in Kampala, Uganda, we are now joining Next Radio, Marcus and Qitui. Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Good morning, Eric and the team. Morning, guys.
Good morning.
Tuko salama kabisa. How is Uganda today?
Very good. The sun has come out today. It was raining all weekend, but I think it's been raining in Nairobi as well, so I'm told.
Yes, it has. We've had 4 days of sustained heavy rains.
Okay.
We had been told about this by our Kenya Meteorological Department. I don't know whether your Met had told you anything.
Leave our Met out of this.
Okay.
All right, moving on then.
So, guys, Kenya now has 42 cases, still one death out of coronavirus. What's the status in Uganda?
I would safely say you guys are doing a little bit better than us in as far as the growth rate of this is concerned. Because as of the last conversation we had, you had 28 cases, yes?
Yeah.
And we had about 8 cases at the time. And now we've more than tripled. We're at 33 now.
Whoa.
And you've not even doubled yet.
Yeah.
So I think in as far as new cases is concerned, you guys are doing a little bit better than us. We're at 33 now. Still no death, thank goodness. How did Kenyans react to that first death?
There was, well, of course you expect whenever you hear somebody has died, there's sadness. And then there's now starting to realize that things starts getting home, that, well, this thing is real. That coronavirus is here and it's possible for people to die. So that was the kind of somber realization that we got out of it.
Did people take the precautions a lot more seriously after this?
Well, it's yet to be seen because immediately after that, remember, the government was also instituting the new heavy measures. One of them being we now went into a curfew, 7 p.m. to 5 a.m. curfew.
Yeah.
Every day across the country, everywhere, the territorial boundaries of the Republic of Kenya.
Yeah.
So now there's limited movement at night, but still movement is allowed during the day. Still with the kind of measure that the government had put in place earlier, asking very many people to work from home as much as possible. Government workers are working from home. You know, the government is the biggest employer. Many private sector companies have also asked their people to work from home. Those that are not doing well in business, some of them sadly have asked their people to not work from home, but just go home.
I did see a couple of disturbing images when the curfew had been instituted. Was that fake news? Was it real? Is it better today?
It wasn't fake news. It was real news. That was on Friday, and especially it was big around Likoni and Mombasa because of the ferry crossing. Remember, we had talked about the ferry crossing the last time we spoke. So the ferry had announced that they were going to close their operations by 6 p.m. Many companies had not released their workers early enough, so people were basically milling towards the ferry and looking at the time and thinking, I'm going to be late. So police were trying to do two things. One, trying to stop a stampede, but also the other second thing they were doing is they were trying to instill law and order using whips.
Yeah, we saw that. That was something.
It was a bit,
Is
it better today?
Yeah, since then it has calmed down. I mean, on Saturday and last night, we didn't have very many cases of people fighting.
Right, then of course we're getting back into the week today. So today being Monday, then I think we saw a lot of it coming out that it was required for people to then leave work earlier, because that was a problem that we saw on Friday. People leaving work at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, hoping to get then onto the ferry, for example, which needed time for people to board, which was the problem. So if people are leaving, and then of course we're talking about people who are not necessarily in an office setting. A lot of people in the informal sector then trying to get onto the ferry, trying to get home, and then being asked to leave early. So I mean, it's a catch-22 because you need to work the whole day to make your dollar, right? And then you have to get onto the ferry at a certain time to be home by 7. It's a bit of a mess.
But consider the numbers. You're talking about, say, 100,000 people who want to cross. Each ferry has a capacity of, say, 900. You're talking about social distancing that we raise. You are then saying that people would need, an average of 6.3 centimeters square.
Yeah.
So if they were to line up, say, 10,000 people per line, you're talking about 1.5 kilometers of a queue.
Just a queue.
Yes.
Not practical.
So if you consider that, and you consider that the ferry to, say, the Nyeri Bridge is 3.5 kilometers, if you actually want all these people to, you're saying there'll be a queue beyond the Nyali Bridge and on to Kongowea or a place called Kengeleni. It was a situation that required managing before the actual time. And I think now we've been given an opportunity to consider the sort of ferries we ought to use, the frequency we ought to use. And remember, 90% of the people who cross in this ferry live in what you call Swahili houses. So they're already congested anyway. You'll find a unit has something like 15 people living there. So this thing of social distancing that you're talking about, it is a behavior change that requires some really serious measures, because you are removing them from what you call congestion in the ferry, and the places of residence where they live in, they're going back into congestion.
Going back to the same thing.
It's actually now physical distancing,
Yes.
which is practically impossible. Now, I want to ask you guys about your numbers. You seem concerned that your numbers are increasing alarmingly, but it may be a good thing. So, a good thing in that, if the government is doing aggressive testing, tracing and tracking, it means you know where everyone is who has the virus. So is this the case? Because otherwise then it's a problem.
Okay, so all the cases that we have are from people who were initially quarantined or were being tracked. So of those, every day we test about maybe 200 to 240, give or take. And the largest number out of each batch has been 8 in each section out of each time. So in terms of percentage numbers, it's not too bad a report in itself. There are about still 800 people who are quarantined to date, slightly over 800, and those will be tested this week. So with the current trajectory, we were even doing the mathematics, we say we should maybe get another 20 or so, God forbid.
I think the one thing that we still can, I don't know if we can celebrate it or we've not gotten to that point yet, is the fact that most of the people who are infected now who've been discovered are people who traveled in. So we've not had as big a number of local infections of these people going into the communities and having and spreading it. But we do have a few of those, but they have not yet been discovered. So we're hoping that the local transmissions are actually very, very few.
Actually, there's only one guy for now that we know for sure who had not left the country. He was a guy in a district in the north, in Ajumani. He's a trader who used to trade at the Sudanese border. And he's the only guy who hasn't left Uganda at all. And he was found positive of the virus.
And then maybe one other guy who traveled into the country and I think went to see his child and infected his baby. But for those cases,
everybody else is from from Dubai, from Europe, from everybody who we knew they were coming, and the people they were in contact with are also being tracked on watch.
From where I sit, I think you're in a better position than we are as Kenya, because if your cases are imported, if most of them are imported and the ones that are local, you can actually pinpoint and trace and track everyone, then that's a better state to be in, other than when you do not know if you have local transmission or community transmission ongoing. So I think we should borrow from you.
One of the fewest baby cases globally.
Yes.
We have an 8-month-old baby that got infected, and I think that's one of the youngest worldwide that has happened.
How is that baby faring?
Responding well, and that's the beauty about so far everybody that's on medication is responding very well to it.
So our government has also cracked a whip seriously on all things to do with quarantine and to do with the regulations that were put out. As of the last time we talked, I think since then we've not had a change. By that time, yes, public transportation had been, I think, banned. And since then, we've not had much change to the conditions that have been set, but they are being followed very strictly. We've got police stop checks on the roads. We've got the markets being very closely supervised. We've got everything being supervised. We've also got the Chiboko, so don't worry, it's not just there. We're also chasing people very seriously here.
I wouldn't expect Mzee to have it any other way. Any other measures that Mzee has brought in place in Uganda?
Like your borders?
No, for now. Borders were closed a while ago, except for the goods, trucks and goods. That's the only one that can move. For passengers, none in, none out.
Unfortunately, our borders are very porous on all sides. But trying hard to monitor every aspect of the border, not just the main areas, not just Busia, not just maybe Gatuna, but all the other small entry points, because we've got a lot of those.
Yeah. Especially around the water bodies that border the countries, where many people are sneaking in. Apparently, there's a whole bunch of people on the Rwanda border side around Lake Choga or one of those lakes where guys are sneaking in somehow, but that's been worked on as well.
Great. We expect to touch base again with you guys maybe in the coming days, tomorrow or Wednesday.
Yeah, certainly.
Yeah.
Certainly.
Once there are any new developments. Asante sana. Thank you very much. We've been live on Next Radio in Uganda with Marcus and Qitui, and you guys have also been live right here in Kenya.
With the Situation Room on Spice FM. Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
Asante,
guys.
have
Thanks
a
a
good
lot.
one.
Talk soon.